The Congotay Festival is happening from October 27th to 28th in Williamsville and November 3rd to 4th at Brazil. Joining us this morning is Omar Mohammed, the CEO of the Kraba Foundation, and Marcus Waldron, Director of the Micro Theatre Festival of Trinidad and Tobago. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
It is a pleasure to have you both on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
Goodness, this is so moving. Now, we were discussing on air before we came on about how Micro Theatre Festival has grown. Trinidad and Tobago, this festival has grown from the ground up, and this is just the beginning. Let's get into the conversation about how the Kraba Foundation became involved in this Micro Theatre Festival that is climate change themed in particular.
Yeah, so the Kraba Foundation, I mean, we've been around for 23 years now, and we've always been, I think, an undercover practitioner of the arts. The first thing we've ever done back in 1999 was actually host the Kraba Foundation Caribbean Writers Workshop, which has gone on now to, I think we have over 180 alumni, names that you would recognize: Shivani Ramlochan, Barbara Jenkins, Kai Miller, all these folks.
Yeah.
So we have a long history of being involved in the arts, but this is the first time we've actually gone as far as putting the arts and the technical work that we do together, which is climate change, climate justice, and so on. So, and of course, we had someone in the room who has experience in a multitude of different art forms. So, it was an organic fit.
It really is an organic fit. Marcus, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show again. Thank you for being here. Let's talk about the theme, Today Congotay. What is this theme about?
Okay, so today Congotay is an adaptation of Who Can Hear Will Feel. So what we tend to see when we look at the numbers around climate change in the Caribbean is that we don't talk about climate change as much. And so what we've also experienced in speaking to people is that a lot of children sometimes can't connect the fact that the weather is getting hotter and that experience to what climate change in fact is. Right, and so what we're attempting to do is to, like you said, bridge the gap between the science and the communication around what's happening in the environment with entertainment, and bring those forms together to be able to educate and inspire next generation.
Oh, I love the fact that you mentioned bringing these forms together, because micro theatre is something that is a little different and is just, well, it's here in Trinidad and Tobago now, and it's definitely here to stay. But for those who don't know, share with us this morning, what exactly is micro theatre?
Okay, so a micro theatre is like a short theatre format that allows 50-minute performances within an hour. So it's two 50-minute performances for about 15-minute break. So performance break, right? And what it allows is for repeat performances in multiple rooms, etc. Think of it like a Netflix of theatre, right? And so in that kind of way, what you would have is multiple different types of shows, different types of experiences happening in different rooms. And so all the audiences going together, right? They watch your particular show, then they come back out, spend a 50-minute break, and then decide whether they want to go to see another show, if they want to lime outside, like provide a sort of all-round festival experience.
Wonderful. Now, let's go to you, Omar, because there is this increasing awareness of climate change. But what about climate justice? How are we integrating this into theatre, and where does it fit into the grand scheme of things?
So, I mean, climate justice really is the human story around climate change. So it's connecting the science that we are all literally feeling when we walk outside these days, with the social impact. So, what's the impact of increasing heat on vulnerable groups, older folks, younger folks, persons who are living with some type of illness? What's the impact of, increasing electricity subsidies in relation to air conditioning in the face of all this heat? So that's just like, one very, very small human story. And of course, theatre is one of the best ways of telling those stories. So we're hoping that giving the space for these community members, and all of the stories and plays have been written with community members. So we're hoping that we can put a voice to some of these, human interest, wellness, well-being stories that relate to climate change. So not just heat, but the impact of decreasing fish stock to fisher folk, the reduction in water for farmers, the increase in heat for farmers and what that means for food security. So all of these things are wrapped up in the human element of climate change.
Yeah, even sometimes like the financial implication of living in areas that have been damaged by climate change. And a case in point is people who came out of the Green Veil situation. Right? There are people who still can't get particular types of insurance because of where you live. And when you actually go to hear people's story of what they're going through, what they have to do on an everyday, like it's really, really inspiring to see how they continue to try and make things happen. Of course, there are also people who would have picked up and left. So if you go to certain parts of Greenville, you would see that houses are empty. Certain parts are a ghost town, right? People still live with that PTSD of what that experience has been. I think also when we visited the community, it was a nurse that we spoke to. And she told her story of what it was like just happening during the flood. And we could still see like how she was still visibly shaken years since. She still has up the storm, the storm the flood does. Like those things are still up, like, prepared whenever something was to happen. And so I think those are the kind of costs that we don't automatically track. Those are things are not captured, I think, in surveys. You know what I'm saying? Like, we kind of gloss over those stories. And so by teaming up with the Kraba Foundation to tell these kind of stories, we shed a light on these impacts that are not usually recorded.
Definitely. And that is so moving just to sit back for a moment. And as you mentioned, PTSD, because many times a lot of people, as you said, we gloss over it. We say, oh, well, it happened and we move on. But those who have lived through it and are living with it every single day are still affected. And these are the stories that need to be shared. So hats off to Microtheatre and to the Kraba Foundation for coming together to bring this to light and communicate those stories. So I'm assuming from this, Omar, that the stories that we are going to learn, we're going to observe, we're going to see during Microtheatre are going to be just like this.
Yeah, so I mean, the stories we're definitely going to see are going to be just like this. It allows the artists to sort of bring those points forward. We have great theatre artists working to bring these stories forward. So we have Tafa Trace, Benjamin, we have Shania Mark, we have Eric Barry, we have Albert Smith, the person who would have founded the Microtheatre Festival, bringing it to Trinidad in that kind of way. We have all these artists working together to be able to get this message out, and they have actually went into the communities, spent time, hearing what's going on, working with people, communities to be able to bring things out. And I think one of the things that Omar really impressed upon us to be able to do is to be able to also involve all the vendors and make sure it's hyper-local, right? That the impact that we're going to have redounds back to the community members who are part of it. So all the funds go back into the schools that we're supporting, right? And the majority of it goes back to the schools and also support the actors too as well. And so what we're super just focused on is being able to get the message out there, want people to come out and see and hear what's going on with climate change, etc., and come with an open spirit, right, to be able to experience something new, right? We're building something here, and I think the Kraba Foundation is at the helm of it. So
now, the Kraba Foundation is, and from the conversation this morning, this is heavily community-based. Now, it's interesting with the communities that have been chosen, Brazil and Williamsville, some people may say that they tend to fly under the radar. Is this specifically intended by the Kraba Foundation to deal with those?
Yeah, absolutely, because, of course, when you talk about these things like climate change, you tend to get opinions from the same people over and over. And again, when you talk about climate justice, these are the things that impact sometimes the most vulnerable and, like you said, the most overlooked. So we've made it a priority in this and other work that we do to really try and center the voices and experiences of people who, in many cases, might get affected the most. And conversely are listened to maybe the least. So, we have a good history of working with rural communities in particular. And these communities, Williamsville and Brazil, are, just fantastic. They have really opened themselves to us. The schools themselves have been, a word beyond fantastic. I don't know what that is. But again, they've really sort of embraced this idea of, we're creating a space for them, and they are maximizing that space as much as they possibly can.
This is going to be such a beautiful experience. Tell us how the days are going to unfold and where we can access information and, of course, attend.
Yes, so the days start at 12:30. So between 12:30 and 2:30, persons can come. We'll have other NGOs being there with booths. We have the EMA coming and talking about the environment. We have some really cool stuff, virtual reality. We have food vendors. So you can come with your kids, with your family, your friends. And then shows start at 2 p.m. And that's on a Saturday. And it runs until 6:30. And then from 6:30 to 7, we have a closing that's wrapped up by Kevin Sawyer, who's probably going to do, I think, the first ever climate change stand-up comedy set. So that should be really interesting.
Yes.
To enter the festival is free. To watch the shows, you have to make a contribution that goes back, like Marcus said, to the school primarily and then to the actors. And you can get those on Suntix, suntixx.com. You can just scroll down. I think we're like the third event there. Or you can even just Google Congotay tickets and we're right at the top.
Yeah.
Or you can follow Kraba Foundation and the Micro Theatre Festival of Trinidad and Tobago on social media. And we have all the links there. And there are multiple different ways. If you want hard copy tickets, you can call us at 221-5751 and we can organize that for you. Otherwise, you can get it digitally through Suntix.
Yeah. Wonderful. So viewers, as you can see, the information is on the bottom of your screen, also those social media handles. Before we close, though, one of the things that we were talking about, as we mentioned earlier, was what it's been like with the Micro Theatre Festival journey. Did you think that you would see Micro Theatre be what it is today in Trinidad and Tobago when you started?
No. When I started, I mean, nobody cared. I think people still don't care, if we're being honest. I think it is just being able to continue to prove that the format can be useful and it can be developmental space for new types of theatre, new types of forms. So it's great to see where it's grown, and I'm excited to see what the future of it could be.
And we are excited to see it as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us this morning on Now. Wishing you all the best, or as we say, break a leg. Trinidad and Tobago, the Congotay Festival is happening the 27th to the 28th of October at Williamsville and November 34th in Brazil. We have more coming up this morning on this Tuesday on Now. Stay tuned.